Howdy and welcome to Hunters Connect. My name's Tony Shonin. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Boone Crockett Club. So the Boone Crockett Club was founded in 1887 by Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt lost his wife and his mother on the same day, Valentine's Day, 1883. And he was a devastated man, and he came west. Roosevelt owned two ranches near Medora, North Dakota. One of them was called the Elkhorn Ranch. And he spent 2 years riding around North and South Dakota and Wyoming and Montana, and he witnessed our wildlife populations being decimated and our natural resources being plundered. And so he came back in 1887 to New York City, hosted a dinner at his home the first Saturday of December that year, and he invited people of influence, politicians, scientists, industrialists, very diverse group of folks. The main thread that connected them, though, was they were all sportsmen. They all loved to hunt, and they all cared about trying to restore our big game species and trying to restore habitat health and make sure our wildlife populations were healthy. And then when William F. McKinley was assassinated in 1901, Roosevelt became president. He was the vice president at the time, and over the course of his term, they established the National Park System, they established the National Forest System, and they established the National Wildlife Refuge System, all open to the public, 230 million acres. They had originally thought they were going to have to keep a specimen of all the North American big game species because they thought they were going to go extinct. And they created the National Collection of Heads and Horns because they wanted the future generations to remember what these animals looked like. And somewhere in the chain of events there, they all of a sudden realized that we actually have to save these species. We can't just remember them. And so that's when all that work was done in the early history of the club. Toward the end of that, when they thought they were making progress, they wanted to figure out a way to measure that. And that's where our scoring system came from. They said, you know, if there is a mature male specimen harvested in an ecosystem, that's an indicator that that ecosystem is healthy. And that's how the scoring system got started, and that's how it is used today. It's still used today for the very same thing. So as time went on, not only did they get the habitat and the land open to the public, they looked at making sure that the wildlife was managed properly, and they did that a lot by legislation. Policy was always one of the cornerstones of the club, and they were involved with not only the Lacey Act, but the Wild Migratory Waterfowl Act in the 1920s, Pittman-Robertson Act in the 1930s, the Wilderness Act in the 1960s, the Endangered Species Act in the 1970s. I mean, there was lots and lots of acts and legislation that passed Congress that the club members were pivotal in. They also started offshoot groups, and I won't say offshoot in a negative way. There was members that had particular interests in particular things. For example, they started the National Audubon Society. They started the National Wildlife Federation in the 1930s. They started the Wildlife Management Institute in 1911. All these other organizations that have meant so much to the conservation of our species on this continent were all started by club members. You know, going forward through the history of the club, it's marked every decade there was something that there was always an activity going on. They started putting their shoulders to the wheels of conservation in 1887, and they never stopped. Only one time they stopped, and that was 1941 to 1945, World War II. But they've been at it ever since, and they're still at it today. I'm Tony Shonin, Chief Executive Officer of the Boone Crockett Club, and thank you for watching Hunters Connect.